And we are back with some more Doctor Who episode rankings. So let's keep going here. With a fucking turd. Daleks in Manhattan, Evolution of the Daleks. Really shit episode. I do like the Dalek human hybrid. I think it's a cool concept. Buried and it looks sick, as you can see this on him, but like shit episodes. Utopia. I don't know why this is the three-parter. I don't know why he chose to separate out. To me, this is a three-part story, and I think it has some cheesy moments. It has some like weird Deus Ex Machina moments toward the end, but it is, you know, an incredible story, and I'm tempted to put it in God tier. I think I will. Um, just because, like, to me, like, this introduces the Master into the new show, who's like such an iconic character, and it is the perfect like writing of their relationship, like the relationship of the two characters, like this, like, I don't know. It's not enemies to lovers. It's just like it's more like two people that are like so closely connected and like almost soulmates, but they took just drastically different paths in life to the point where they're like, oh, I've never seen it done better. Like, to the point where they're like, one has to save the world from another, and like, it's so good, so good. And Martha's whole story and her whole arc of coming to terms with herself is so good. 10 um, um, yeah. Sorry, I was just getting a few texts, so I wanted to check to make sure it wasn't anything important, and it's not. So, Partners in Crime, Donna's return, very funny, some very funny moments, but cheesy, mid tier. Fires of Pompeii, another mid tier, I would say. There's a lot of, it's a very classic episode, a lot of moments, but like that ends up like the whole, like the actual sci-fi narrative itself is not, great. Doctor's Daughter, high tier, awesome concepts, and it packs. I think it could have been a two-parter and had more space to breathe, but it packs like amazing concepts, and like the twist of this episode is so fucking good. And it packs like amazing concepts into like like a 40-minute episode, like it's such a subversion of the concept of armies for fighting so long that they forgot what they're fighting about. Where it's like, I'm gonna spoil it. If you're watching this video, you've probably seen it. Just like the whole twist that like it's these armies that have been fighting for so long that they don't remember what they're fighting about. But the twist is that like they're all clone armies, so the actual conflict has been like less than a week, and they just have absolutely like they're clone armies that are born with memory of the conflict and like what their mission is. It's so good. I'm surprised Jenny hasn't come back. Like it's very surprising, especially like her close connection to the show and like being David Tennant's wife IRL. Like, it's very surprising that she hasn't come back. Unicorn and the Wasp, terrible episode, shit tier. Planet View, really good episode. It has some like over the top cheesy moments, but like the story itself and like its handling of like slavery is very, very well done. I think it goods in high tier for me. Midnight. I'm going to use this video to sort of decide what my favorite episode of the show is, because it's very hard for me to decide. There are so many great stories that never really come to. This is a contender. I think this is one of the scariest, one of the best written sci-fi stories ever. I think, like, not just Doctor Who, ever. I think it is so good, and it's reminiscent of like those classic, like really good sci-fi concept short stories that you were reading like literature and writing classes. Like, it's so good, and it really sits with you and sticks with you, and it's really like, it's one of those stories that like, it's a sci-fi horror concept, but it's really about humanity and how humans deal with each other and react in times of crisis. And it's one of the best stories ever told, honestly. Possible contender for my favorite episode of the whole show, honestly. The Next Doctor, this episode shit. It's clickbait. It's a clickbait fucking episode. It's like, ooh, this guy is going to be the next... It's terrible. And it's like... yeah, it's awful. Turn Left. Another God Tier. We're getting, like, I hate that it's spread out, but there's a run here of, like... It's Silence in the Library, Forest of the Dead, Midnight, Turn Left, Stolen Earth at Journey's End, and then if you skip Next Doctor and Planet of the Dead, go right to Waters and Mars, and then the End of Time, you got like the best run in the whole show. Like it's just the best like continuous like streak in the whole show. But anyway, Turn Left is up there with Midnight for me, contender for my favorite episode. The Doctor is barely in it, but the whole concept of like what would the world be like if the Doctor didn't exist, it has its issues. There's a lot of plot holes, sure, but like the whole way it's handled and the whole like it's so good, so fucking good, and it really is like a really good character piece for Donna and Wilfred and Rose. And like it's really like Rose had been like trickling back into the story throughout the season very subtly, but like this is her real return to the narrative, and it does her so much justice, and shows like, hey, like she is so fucking competent, and like anyone who said she's just a damsel in distress is so wrong. And yeah, the way it handles like those three characters, like Donna, Wilfred, and Rose, is like masterful. Contender for my favorite episode as well. I think it's God Tier. Planet of the Dead, shit fucking episode. When I was doing my last rewatch, I fell asleep during this episode. And you know me, like, I rarely fall asleep during movies or TV. And, like, I fell asleep during Planet of the Dead. And it was like, I wasn't watching it at night. I was watching it midday, and I fell asleep. It's awful. The Waters of Mars, it's funny, I did not like this episode when I watched it, when I was first watching the show and when I was younger. When I rewatched the show, I'm gonna put it in high tier. I don't think I could put it in God tier. This was, it has a kind of generic sci-fi concept, but the character study it is for the Doctor is something I like totally missed when I first watched the show. Like that's what this episode is about, is a character study for the Doctor. It's purposefully a generic sci-fi like space station in distress story, because the point of it is to show the psychological impact of something like that on the Doctor. And like Adelaide is a great side character and great foil to the Doctor, and I think she really is very well written. Incredible episode. I'm tempted to put it in God tier. I'm tempted, but I'm like so tempted right now. I'll leave it here for now. Stolen Earth Journey's End is really good. To me, it's the climax of the seasons 1 through 4, the Russell T Davies era of the show. This is what everything had been building toward. There's more after this, and I think the End of Time, a lot of people say the End of Time is that climax, but I feel like it's almost like an epilogue, if you will. It's like resolving the loose ends and like putting the era to sleep. You know, it's like okay, we're resolving the loose end of the Master's still out there and a threat. We're resolving the loose end of like the Wilfred Donna situation, resolving the loose end of like the 10th Doctor who carried the Russell T Davies era, like saying goodbye to all of his friends and like having to face his death and mortality and regenerate. And like I'm really talking about the End of Time here, so I'll write that next. But Stolen Earth Journey's End is really the climax of everything narratively that I think like was really building up. Like you got like whole thread with like you have the whole thread of the Daleks returning, like built up to top with Davros returning to the current series, who the creator of the Daleks. You have all of the sort of friends and allies that the 10th Doctor has built along, 9th and 10th Doctors have built along the way, coming together to be like, okay, like, it really is like almost like a Infinity War level event for the show. Honestly, it's like all these characters coming together to, and obviously the way it handles the return of Rose and the Doctor reunite. So good. The whole meta crisis, I love it. However, that's what I was getting to. However, it does not hold up as strongly as it did when I first watched the show. This, I would have said, was my favorite episode probably when I first watched the show, or favorite story, but I think I'm going to put it in high tier and not God tier, because there's some weakness there. The End of Time, I'm going to say the same. There's a little bit of weakness trickled in, but it is ultimately incredibly good and is really like the perfect conclusion for the 10th Doctor story. And like Wilfred, he was already like Wilfred. The End of Time really cements Wilfred as one of my favorite fictional characters. I think he just is like, I don't think I can watch The End of Time without crying multiple times. There's just so many good moments in this, and it like really, it ties up everything that the era needed to tie up, that the Stolen Earth Journey's End didn't really tie up, because there's still like the Master out there. There's still, Donna's family, who was a huge part of the Doctor's life. Now that Donna's out of the picture, it's like what the family situation is like there. It's great. It's amazing. It's weird because that's the end of that era of the show, but like because it was out of order, there's still a few stories here. So let's do that. Let's so you got the Centauran Stratagem, the Poison Sky. I think the Centaurans are probably one of my least favorite recurring villain groups in the show. They're so boring. They are they're just a war race, and they look ugly, and that's it. This episode really sucks. I'm gonna put it in shit tier. I was tempted to put it in low tier, but like, I'm gonna put it in shit tier. Silence Library Force of the Dead, on the other hand, is going straight up to God tier. One of my favorite stories in the whole show. The way it introduces River Song is like the perfect introduction. Like, even if she was like a one-off sci-fi concept, which I think at this point she wasn't, because I think at this point like Moffat was ready to take the helm and was like working with Russell T Davies to determine, okay, where is my era gonna go from your era? And I think it seems like Russell T Davies allowed him to introduce River and be like, okay, we'll introduce a recurring character for you now so you can set it up. And I thought that was genius how it was handled. And the side concept was held the Vashta Nerada in this giant ass like futuristic library that's empty. Oh, amazing concepts. Another contender for my favorite episode in the whole series. Like, I feel like a lot of these up here might all be tied. But yeah, Silence and Library Force of the Dead. Incredible story. I think is Vincent and the Doctor written by Moffat? No. This is the best Moffat episode, I think. That's everything for the first era of the show. That's seasons 1 through 4, the Russell T Davies era, the 9th and 10th Doctor. That's the era. So we're going to go into what essentially starts what feels like a new show now, with season 5. And I think it's a perfect place to sort of break up this video. And next episode we will jump into the 11th Doctor era. Maybe if we get far enough, start the 12th Doctor era. So we will see you next time. Bye-bye.